This is Bleav In Buckeyes. I'm Bryant with All-American cornerback Chimdi Chekwa. Our Buckeyes, they traveled out west. What is that, the Pacific Northwest? What you want to call it? I don't know. Alaska Airlines Stadium to take on the Washington Huskies, and we come back with the W, 24-6. Chim, man, what's up, man? What's going on? How you feeling, man? Game was good, right?
Yeah, it was a good game. It was an interesting watch for me, man. I was at my cousin's wedding.
Okay.
You know, I forgive her. You know, she lives out in Alabama. They scheduled a wedding around the Bama-Georgia game, but not around the Buckeye game. So, you know, it is what it is. But I still got to watch the game. You know, everybody there knew that I was going to be watching on my phone.
So you had to say no speeches then. Good.
I didn't have to say no speeches. You know, I danced a little bit, but I did catch the full game, and I thought it was a good road win. You know, I think back to us going back way back in the day, going out there to Washington to play in a similar type of matchup. They had some dynamic offensive players, et cetera. And it was a fight. Like, for us, it was a fight. Coach Hartline was part of that team as well. So I thought the team did a good job of playing, hostile environment, on the road, securing the win. So proud of the group for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think overall, I kind of felt like the game, and it's really just the second half, I feel like it felt kind of boring, right? Like Washington got a field goal, they off, and I think after that we scored a field goal, and then I think we scored a touchdown, and then right before half, like Washington, like what was that? How'd it go? No, they kick a field goal. And they had a chance for another field goal. They tried to fake it. They tried to run a fake field goal, which is absolutely crazy. They tried to fake field goal. It looked like only two people knew it was a fake. The receiver had no idea. He was like blocking and throw it in the ground. And then after that, I was like, kind of all Washington had. I say it kind of got bored in the second half because I was waiting for Washington to do something. Like, oh, they're going to make a play. They had made some big plays, but none of them led to touchdowns. Kind of was close with some things, but our defense just said, like, no, we don't do that. We don't give up points, right? So they kind of was able to shut things down and overall secure our first win on the road in the Big Ten, which was a good one. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good one. I just think, you know, just so far watching these games defensively, I think Ohio State is the top defense in the country. If I remove my bias, I would say I think Ohio State is at least a top 2 defense in the country. And one of the ways they make it happen is they kind of take away what the other team actually does well. And if you look at Washington going into the game, all the talk was about, you know, their receiver, their running back, but their quarterback being super dynamic, right? And they kept them in the pocket. You know, I saw guys rush up field and sit there, right, and just wait. If you're gonna make plays, you're gonna have to make plays actually dropping back, going through progressions, finding the right guy and throwing the pass, and he wasn't able to do it. So at the end of the day, I mean, you thought it was boring. I thought it was a masterclass defensively.
Yeah.
And then I thought the offense, after a while, as they kind of figured out how Washington was attacking, was able to open it up and make plays. So, you know, at the end of the day on the road, man, sometimes that's what it is, right? That's what it is. Good, if you can bring a good defense on the road and then really understand and kind of what their defense is trying to do versus you, and then kind of open up that offense. That's kind of what it takes to go get a win.
Yeah, they're right. I mean, really, like offensively, we played mistake-free, opportunistic offense, right? Like my man Coach Tressor would say. And on defensively, like, you know, those guys were just lights out. You know, and then sometimes Buckeye Nation, they get a little, you know how Buckeye Nation is. You know, they get a little like, well, you know, why we're not throwing bombs and, you know, we should be throwing this 75 yards down the field and big touchdowns. Like, that wasn't needed this Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Like they started off the game. They made a presence known that they was going to try to take Jeremiah Smith away. He still ended up the day with 8 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. So they did it. You know, they wanted to put a presence there. 2 guys, like, you know, trying to really stand something there. Then as you kind of mentioned, like in the goal line, they're double Cornell Tate too. So even when we kind of got down into the goal in the red zone, you know, both our top XY receivers are getting double. So you kind of got to go elsewhere with the ball from there. And, you know, I think we did a great job at, you know, taking what was there. We drew some things up and hit on some things like the wide receiver screen to Jeremiah Smith. great design, great play call, great timing to run something like that. We was able to run the ball when we needed to. Obviously, C.J. Donaldson with 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. He was big in this game. But like you said, I think it was just overall, obviously, the defense was the gem of the day. And the way they kind of took Williams away. If you look at his stat line, he had a solid stat line. He had went 18 for 22, 173 yards, no touchdowns, obviously. He was able to get some moving doing, but on the day, he ended with 13 on the stat line. You get a sack, you lose yards. On the stat line, 13 carries for negative 28. So that's what things really got impressive. Because like you say, our defensive line and linebacker crew did a great job of just keeping an eye on him, squeezing the pocket, and then when they want to take a shot at him back there, they let him get him down right away, and not so much of that highlight stuff that he's been doing all season. This team scored 6 points. We played them at home. They was averaging 61 points a game over their first 3. Obviously, none of the games against Ohio State, but man, that's a lot of scoring to all of a sudden end up with 6, no touchdown for the day. So I mean, hats off to the defense.
Yeah, so think about that, right? You're going in to play your first Big Ten game on the road in a place that can get super loud, right? And can really affect the offense being able to make checks and communicate all those things. And you have a defense that is able to travel on the road versus a very dynamic offense and hold that offense to 6 points, 3 points that with a special teams turnover and all that stuff, the total amount that they were able to score is 6 points. So as a head coach, as a Ryan Day, who, is kind of leans more on the offensive side of the ball, if you expect the defense to be able to perform to that level, you just got to think of the mindset of how you approach the game. I'm seeing a lot of criticism about the offense, right? And the one thing I always say about head coaches that are offensive coaches or head coaches that are defensive coaches, that a lot of time they don't think the game enough holistically, right? That's my biggest criticism of Lincoln Riley out there in USC, is that he'd run this offense with Caleb when he had Caleb Williams that put up a ton of points, and super fast. They do everything to score these points, but they didn't actually think about how do we make sure the defense in the best position to get stops on the other side of the ball. And what I do like about Ryan Day and Bryant Hartline and how they're approaching the game is that I feel like more so this year, and even probably the second half of last year, they're really thinking about this game more holistically. And we're trying to score every drive, but we're not going to forget about, everything that goes into winning the game. We're trying to win the game first.
Yeah,
and, I think about some of the criticism about how the offensive play calling was and how the offense didn't have a lot of rhythm in the first half. We got to understand. In the first half, there was only 3 offensive possessions, at least that I saw at the wedding.
Yeah, no, it was 3. I counted it. It was 3. Yeah.
It was 3 possessions. The first one, they got to the 5-yard line. And obviously they got stopped. They went for it on 4th down. They had to me, a good call, bad execution to be able to get that first down. Fullback versus a guy in the hole. If he goes and blocks the right guy, I think they get the first down. The second possession, they're driving, running the ball well to get to a 3rd down, which happens, right? Julian saying it's a good job moving in the pocket, gets Brennan and it's wide open, and he just misses the throw. This is a throw that he's made, over and over again through practicing games, right? And then the 3rd possession, they go score a touchdown. They get back to the red zone, and now they call it, as you mentioned, great timing on the play call, screen, the doubling. In most cases, they probably expected a double versus Jeremiah Smith. In this case, they did a blitz and they played zero coverage. But you're probably expecting some type of double. You get them on this little tunnel screen down the middle, and it scores for a touchdown. To me, that's good offense. And one thing I want to make clear is that we can't watch the success in the pass game and disconnect that from running. Like, you got to run and run successfully to be able to have success in the pass game. Otherwise, as a defense, you start scheming up, stopping these passes that they're trying to do. Like, all this stuff is together. And if they have success in the pass, it starts to open stuff up. The run, it starts to open stuff up for the pass. So I want Buckeye fans. I know nobody hates the Buckeyes more than Buckeye fans. Nobody loves the Buckeyes more than the Buckeye fans, but a Buckeye hater cannot hate the Buckeyes more than a lunatic friend Buckeye fan. But I do want to put a pause on some of the criticism of the offensive game planning, because one thing is for sure, as offensive lineman, you understand this: you have to run the ball on offense.
You gotta run the ball.
I don't care if you're getting yards or you're not. You have to keep the defense honest. And then two, as the game progresses, you got to understand, how are they attacking us? If they're going to double Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith in the red zone, we got to adjust, right? If they're going to stack the box and try to stop the run, we can do play action pass and take the shots. So Buckeye fans, understand there's a plan that goes beyond just trying to score 50 points.
Yeah.
In the game.
Because it makes you feel good, right? But no, like you said, so I mean, this week obviously we've been talking about Bo Jackson. Is he RB1? I think CJ Dowson technically started the game, but Bo ended with the most carries on the day. He had 17 carries for 80 yards, averaging 4 yards a carry. CJ Dowson had 9 carries, 39 yards. He actually got a touchdown. But I want to say Julian saying, right? He had to make some plays with his feet. I'm not saying none of those plays were really dynamic, but you've seen him kind of have to get off his spot a little bit, move around in the pocket, and he seemed to do it well and kind of get some rushing yards and things of that nature. So that was, hats off. We haven't really seen him do that much this year, but he had to, and he didn't do bad, right?
He did a pretty good job. I think when I say concern, the thing that I think the overall, if I was pinpointing what they need to work on the most, and what has shown up in every game, in my opinion, is red zone pass. I think the red zone pass, the field is much more condensed. The defense isn't worried about deep shot to Jeremiah Smith. There is no deep shot. It goes through the back of the end zone. They can start doubling Jeremiah Smith. They can start doubling Carnell Tate when they see games where, okay, we're doubling Jeremiah Smith. Now they're just throwing the fade to Carnell Tate. They could double those guys. And you man up everywhere else, and you're pretty much playing underneath because you got the back of the end zone as a kind of another defender. In those situations, that's where, if I was to be critical, that's where the offensive passing scheme, they just need to add some element of getting one-on-one matchups, maybe a Brandon Ennis, maybe a Max Clare, or another tight end who has some range that can get, you get him one-on-one, you throw the ball high. If it's an overthrow, it goes out the back of the end zone. If he goes up and gets it, it's a touchdown. I think Ohio State has enough big targets on offense that when the red zone, they shouldn't struggle as much in the pass game. That's my opinion, is that you got all these tight ends that have range, size.
That you're playing. You're playing like 4 tight ends. You're playing 4 tight ends. Yeah.
You have a defense that's going to double Jeremiah Smith because they know that's the easiest way for you to score a touchdown. So you should have that expectation. It doesn't mean you can't get him the ball. You can still make design stuff to get him the ball, because a double team doesn't always work. You got defenses that are going to double team Carnell Tate now too, because we don't want to leave this guy on the island either. That's where you can, last year in those situations, they worked the Mecca Ibuka, and that was easy. That was like a layup. I think you got to get the ball to Brandon Ennis, and you really got to use those tight ends in a way to just get them one-on-one, a clear shot for Julian Saying to see it and be able to deliver the ball. He's such an accurate passer. Deliver the ball where those guys can go up and make a play. And if they miss, it goes out the back of the end zone and it's over with. So that if there's a criticism, that would be my primary one. And then my second one is just punt return, man. We just got to be better on punt return. I'm sorry. If it happens in one game, it's all right. We got to be better. Yeah. But week after week after week, when things show up, I don't care if they're different, it's an issue. And they got to solve these issues during the season, because when they go make a run of the playoffs, when they play a team like Michigan, when they play a big game against a Penn State, these are things that lead to losses. These are hidden yardage on special teams leads to losses. And if we go back to the Michigan losses, they lost special teams just about every year if we go through it. So that would be my biggest criticism, if any. I do like the play calling overall, but red zone, I think there's, and obviously they're working on it, right?
Yeah,
but red zone, there's some opportunity to do something better to get those guys opportunities at scoring touchdown.
What's up, Buckeye Nation? Brian here. Chim, you got something for the people?
Yeah, we're promoting the Coach Tressel Fitness Challenge, and along those same lines, we're promoting health. And one way to do that is to make sure that you have strong immune systems.
That's why we'd like to announce our partnership with Buckeye Vitamins. Buckeye offers immediate support and long-term immunity training.
Yeah, and I take Buckeye, and what I like about it is vitamins for the entire family. So you take it all together. Clean ingredients, traceable ingredients, so you know exactly what's in it, and it provides that long-term immunity training to really support health.
And that means less downtime and more showtime. And we all know in the game of football and also in the game of life, your best ability is availability.
So here's a play. Go to buyme.com, that's BYMAE.com, and use the code Buckeyes for your first order. You get a discount. It'll help train your immune system just like we train.
That's right, 50% off. Yeah, and as a former offensive lineman, I'm gonna say just run the ball. Like get to the red zone and we just run it in. But I would say we did. I think Ohio we got stopped. I think CJ Johnson got stood up in the hole. I mean, it was a great play by the safety. He hit him. It was a safety. Hit him in the hole. Hit him square. Very hard hit. We didn't get that one in. And it's like we're kind of working on some things. It seems like we're kind of working on some things, but we got to keep working on it, improving because it gonna comes up. And then obviously the punt return, Brandon Ennis, he made a great return. It was a good return. I mean, I think it got 32 yards. Look at the stats right now. 32 yards on the return. Made some guys miss, going north and south. But obviously, I'm a trust a guy. All we need is the ball, man. You got to secure it at the end and not leave that be the turnover. That was the only turnover we had for the day. That fumble and that punt return. And obviously, I don't think Washington got points because I believe that's when they tried to fake the field goal and it didn't work out. But man, let's get to the stars of the game, man. Let's give out our Buckeyes, man. You want me to go first? You want to go first, man? Well, what you thinking, man?
You go first. Got? Go ahead.
All right, man. So first off, man, this guy had a special game. It's finally like the commentators were talking about. They was highlighting the guy. They was hyping him up. Like, yeah, man. Coach Patricia have a lot of great things to say about this guy. Seems like a good guy, niche guy is doing a lot for us. And that's Caden Curry, man. His stat line was off the charts. 11 total tackles, led the team in tackles. Defensive end, we kind of move around a little bit. Defensive end led the team in tackles. It doesn't happen every week. You probably didn't get that production out of Chase Young. That's the type of production we talk about leading defensive tackles. 9 solo, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. So, I mean, like that's enough. But you see him all over the field. As we say, we rushed the different a little bit, right? We had to squeeze the pocket before we make that play. Caden Curry did a great job of chasing things down from the back end, not falling for some boots in certain situations. I don't know what his read was, but sometimes he didn't care about the quarterback. He was going straight down the line and making the play on the running back. And then other times he kind of sat there, was patient, and was able to kind of gather Williams when need to and get some sacks there as well. So tip the cat off, my hat off to him, man. Who you got? What you got?
Yeah, shout out to Caden Curry, man. A lot of a really big motor. They line him up outside, they line him up inside, over the nose in passing situations. It kind of reminds me a lot of Jack Sawyer, a Jack Sawyer type player who's gonna make some big plays. I got another Caden, man. I got another Caden on the defensive line. Caden McDonald.
Okay. Oh,
Caden
yeah,
McDonald,
yeah,
man.
the big man.
And this is, he's probably earned a Buckeye in multiple games at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, sure.
So
I mean, a lot of guys have earned the Buckeye.
A lot of guys have. A lot of guys have. When we look at the short yardage, even dating back to last season when he come in the game, he's just a disruptor. I mean, he takes on the double team, does a lot of the dirty work. He doesn't always get credit. Sometimes that double team leads to somebody else getting a tackle. But big game for him. He got a lot of those tackles.
Yeah, 7 tackles, 4 solo, 2 sacks, and 3 tackles for loss. I think that's a special day for an inside guy for sure.
Yeah, he's a tough guy to move. I see him getting hit by 2 guys and being able to hold his ground. And yeah, he got in there, got some pressures, got some tackles, got some sacks. So shout out to him. He gets my Buckeye. I do want to shout out some other guys, man, like Alvar Reese. Alvar Reese continues to impress. If you ever, it's hard during the game to watch everything, man. But if you really want to just get an appreciation for a great defensive player and you want to lock in on one guy, just watch Alvar Reese play. Just watch how he lines up and holds his own, gets off blocks in the run game, and then does a pass rushes during a passing play, drops in coverage, and then also when he's a QB spy. On one play, he's a QB spy, and you know, this quarterback gets out the pocket and he has a ton of space. And there's only one guy to beat to be able to take advantage of that space, and he just could not get around it. Alvaro Reese is a special talent. It's a shame because we might only have him for 1 year as a starter. But yeah, he was super impressive. And obviously there were a ton of guys played well. I thought Caleb Downs had a great game as well. So yeah, shout out to those guys. And then Julian Sain again being able to perform. And this is he's gonna have a lot of firsts this year, with the first Big Ten game on the road. So shout out to him as well.
Yeah. And got to shout out to DBs, right? I mean, we discussed it, right? We rushed it different. We wanted to keep this guy in the pocket. And why did they still not get a touchdown? Because our defensive back. I mean, they made a few plays. I think they had with their top guy didn't get the top numbers. They had a freshman kind of had the most catches on the day, most yards. But our defensive back, they've just been special. Like, so special. We don't even talk about them. Like, Davidson makes a great play. We don't, we just kind of shrug it off because they've just been really essentially lights out all season. But I got to honorary Buckeye, man. We got to give one for the special teams, man. I got to give a Buckeye to my guy, Jaden Fielder, our field goal kicker, man, our kicker. So he obviously made a field goal on the road. It was a rough situation. We really needed those 3 points. We don't get those 3 points. We start to feel kind of bad as a Buckeye Nation watching the game. He nails it. I think extra points, 3 for 3, so nothing big there. But Washington was set up for a return, and he stepped right into the hole there. Obviously, he's a kicker, so it wasn't pretty, but he got the job done. With effective. He got the guy down.
He got the guy
shut
down.
Up.
Big time tackle, man. You talking about dynamic runner, hit the hole. He's got two safeties basically. Is the kicker and the other safety. I don't know exactly who it was on that particular kickoff. If he beats Fielding, I don't know where he ends up. That might actually be a touchdown, or definitely put himself in position to kick a field goal. And he steps in there and fills the gap, takes the hit and gets him down. So on one side, I would be clowning him for getting tackled by the kicker if I was Washington. On the other side, shout out to Jaden Fielding for stepping in there and making a tackle like a linebacker, man.
Man.
That's big time. That's big
time, man. Yeah, man. But let's talk about some Big Ten football. Obviously, we got Minnesota coming up this week, night game, 7:30. We'll dive into them a little bit further in the week and give you a breakdown on that. But let's talk about some Big Ten football, man. Obviously, the big show, all eyes was on, especially if you're a Big Ten fan across the nation, is Oregon versus Penn State. Oregon traveled to Penn State, got the victory in double overtime, 30-24. Is Penn State still a second tier? They just kind of live up to it.
Yeah, Penn State is. They are comfortable at their second tier. Like they are incrementally improving their second tier status. They got a ton of frequent flyer miles now, and they're just right there by first class. So, the first row right by first class, and they're comfortable in that seat.
They get some extra leg room. Right?
Extra leg room. I'm watching that game, the whole game, and obviously they tie the game up. They go into overtime. But when they get to overtime, I am convinced that Penn State is going to lose this game, and they score first. And I still don't believe that they're going to win. And this is just who they are. And I boiled it down to this. Their passing offense is limited because of quarterback and quarterback development or something like that. Right? They can't go win the game. All right? They can't go win the game throwing the ball. And I feel like they don't know that yet either. Like they don't fully understand that, and I think that's a problem. They need to understand that the way they win the game is not by putting the ball in their quarterback's hands and going and get the win. And if they can understand that, and maybe they do, because I don't think a lot of the plays that they made, honestly, it was on the ground. I think Drew Allen, I give him credit. He threw a great touchdown pass, a well-designed offensive play. But to me, Oregon. And I'm viewing this through this lens. Oregon, who has a very good quarterback, Dante Moore, who I thought went out there and won the game. And they got a very good defense, but they got some young corners. There's some areas where a top team would attack an Oregon and should be able to win. And I thought Penn State has the veteran team that also has talent. They brought in some key wide receivers. They have the talent to really test Oregon where they may not be, elite or at that level yet. I think Oregon's on a team on the rise in that case.
Yeah,
but they didn't even do it, in my opinion. Like they didn't even they weren't even able to do it, which to me shows that Penn State. This is the best Penn State is going to be. Like, this is their national championship roster. This is their veteran coach. They brought in Jim Knowles. They basically have the Ohio State formula down to the T. Ohio State's defensive coordinator brought a bunch of guys back that they invested in for another year, brought some key guys in the transfer portal, and they lost to Oregon early. So they're executing the Ohio State national championship run to the T. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Penn State is Penn State. Obviously, always a lot of heat on Coach Franklin because he doesn't win those top. Whenever they're not the quote-unquote favorite, for every reason, it's another top 10 team or whatever. They don't figure it out. Indiana goes on the road against Iowa. That game took 4 quarters to be determined, but Indiana remains undefeated at 5-0. But another big game crossing the big team is Illinois versus USC. Illinois wins that game late on a field goal. So essentially, obviously, they lost very bad, very bad to Indiana, but beating USC, they kind of could play themselves back into this thing.
And
only one loss.
And both USC and Illinois are decent football teams. And I watched that game, and I was glad I did because now you kind of see how the Big Ten stacks up. Mm-hmm. All right, there's a Big Four now. Indiana has now entered the Big Four. Indiana, to me, is on par with Penn State as kind of that second tier, but really close to top tier. Where Penn State, to me, still has better talent, but Indiana
has better coaches.
They're better. Yeah, they're just better, right? They're just better at executing when they need to execute in those key moments. That kind of evens it out a little bit there. And then there's a clear line between that group and then that next level, which is Illinois. Then USC is there. I think Michigan is there.
Washington is there.
I think Washington is there. And I think Maryland. Maryland has a freshman quarterback. I believe he's a freshman quarterback who's super dynamic, kind of similar to Michigan, and that he's a guy who's going to continue to get better every week. And it's kind of a sleeper to get some upset. So we'll see how things play out. They actually play Washington this weekend, I believe. So we kind of see where things stack up in that regard. But the Big Ten is pretty good. The Big Ten, to me, is underrated from a ranking standpoint. There should be more teams in the rankings. Obviously, it's going to trend towards SEC because they were kind of overrated to start. And now, as they get into SEC schedule and they start beating each other, it kind of rises up the teams that aren't as good. So you're gonna have a ton of SEC teams in there, but I think there's a good amount of Big Ten teams that are on that same level as kind of a second tier level conference team.
Yeah, sure. And obviously, this show is always brought to you guys by FanDuel, where FanDuel has a spread for Ohio State versus Minnesota this weekend at 23.5. And it's funny, they got an over-under at 44.5. And I'm thinking, like, dang, that feels kind of low. But, like, Vegas is probably thinking at this point, like, it's only one offense. How many points is Ohio State going to score? We're not really, counting too much for the other team. So maybe that FanDuel kind of got it right. Feels a little bit more fitting there. But that's our show for the week. Tune in to us later on. We'll break down a little bit of Minnesota 3-1 Golden Gophers coming to the shoe night game. So we might have like a drone show or something like that going on. I think it's homecoming too. Homecoming game also for Ohio State. So it'll be exciting time. But as always, please follow us on all platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, as we continue to bring you the 25 Ohio State Buckeye season. We end this show always with a nice OH.
Yo.
Go Bucks. Talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.